What's up guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks so much for tuning in to what's going to be a review of the Viseart Grande Pro Volume 2 palette. Something snapped in me during the most recent VIB sale and I picked this up without honestly any plan to. Made a video about what I was planning on picking up and this was not in the cards until I saw Emily Noel's VIB recommendation video. But I am just such a sucker for texture and this palette is nothing but. The Volume 2 palette is actually the shimmery, glittery sister to the All Matte Volume 1. So this just called my name. I picked it up. So today I'm not only going to be sharing my thoughts on it along with swatches, I'm also going to be doing or walking you through 3 looks I created using it. But the possibilities are honestly endless with this palette. So I'm doing 3 here today, but one of you guys actually in my initial haul video suggested that I do like a full week of looks using this palette. So I think I'm gonna give that a go. But we'll start with 3 today, and this actually comes at a really good time because Viseart announced literally just days ago that they are making some of their shades available for purchase individually. They pulled some of their most requested shades across a lot of their palettes, but so many of them actually come from the Grande Pro Volume 2. So if you just can't stomach the price tag of the full palette, which I totally get because it's a colorful one, not everyone might want to use all of these textures, all of these shades. They are launching quite a few of these individually, so I will make a note, put a star, put some sort of figure that makes it clear which of these are going to be available individually so that you can know in case you're considering picking any of them up. So let's go ahead and dive in. So first let's start quickly going over the packaging. It comes in this beautiful, really sleek and slim palette. It comes with a harder like shell that you can slip this right into, but honestly, for the sake of keeping it more slim and trim, I pretty much always keep it kicking around my collection as is like this. The only problem with that is though, despite this very luxurious velvety feeling exterior, it really grabs onto any makeup, dirt, dust, whatever you have going on. It's just one of those textures. I mean, you can see I've had this for, you know what, a week and it's already kind of grabbing onto those textures. So do expect it to get dirty. It gives me kind of naked, original Naked palette vibes in that sense, which isn't a deal breaker, but is also not ideal if you know, like to keep your makeup palettes looking clean. It comes with a flap that has a magnetic closure or clasp, not really clasp, magnetic closure. It's a pretty strong hold, so you don't have to worry about it flying open if you travel with this. You can open it and then prop it up like so, either sitting up like this or like this, depending on your preference. And then there's obviously this plastic protector barrier here that flips over so you can keep your product from getting out or other things from getting in. They have also perforated the edge here though, so in case you hate this thing entirely, you can rip it right off. And then there's also this mirror up here. It's a pretty good size, which is nice. So now let's dive into the shadows. This whole palette is organized according to finish. Each column has a different finish or texture to it. So starting at the leftmost column, these are the crystalline highlights. And even though they don't look like much in the pan, they're actually a mix of like straight tone highlight shades. Like there's a light champagne, there's a light iridescent pink, but then there's some also really interesting duochromatic shades in here. And in fact, one of these shadows, despite being in the crystalline highlights column, is technically considered a duochrome when you go and purchase it individually, which might throw you off, but just know there is that weird kind of subtle nuance. But all of these shades are super finely milled, so you can totally wear them on your eyes, either inner corner, brow bone, or a wash of color across the lids. But because they don't contain that super chunky glitter that some of the other shades do, they make for amazing facial highlights as well. And in fact, in one of the looks that I'm going to go through, I am wearing this champagne shade on the tops of my cheekbones. Then the next column over are the prismatic metallics. These have a metallic shadow base with larger glitter chunks throughout each of the shades, and the colors of the glitter vary across each of the shadows, of course. The brand recommends using these and actually all the shadows in the last column with a mixing medium to make sure that those glitter flecks really stay in place on your eye. Honestly, I have found that using a stickier base like the CoverGirl lid lock, it stays tacky for a nice long time. Apply these shadows over that, and then rather than using a mixing medium, just go in with a spray. This has been on my desk, so it's been what I'm reaching for. It's the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer Water in Love Ritual. give my brush a couple spritzes, and then I go in with this. And I think you'll see in all of the demos that I have where I use these kinds of shades, like in the look I'm wearing today, there is no fallout. So I don't necessarily think you need a mixing medium, but definitely using a spray or something in conjunction with a sticky base to make sure that glitter doesn't fall out throughout the day is just generally a good idea with these shadows. The next column are the chromatic foils. These are just super intensely metallic shades, all of which are relatively bright, especially compared to the next column over, which are the luxe metallics, and are actually described as more of like a rich velvety texture, but I feel like to me velvet is more on the matte side of things, and these are by no means matte or even satin. They're pretty firmly metallic. It's really just the difference between a brighter metal and a deeper metal, but both columns are very richly pigmented and very high shine. Column 5 are the Celestial Duochromes, and they actually say these are a medium opacity, but honestly, I mean, that is certainly the case using them dry, but anytime I like wet my brush with something like a spray, I feel like I can get them pretty richly pigmented. So the coverage there I think is certainly flexible, and across the board they are just some really gorgeous and interesting duochrome shades. In fact, I'm wearing this bottommost shade here, which I think they've launched already, currently available individually, and I just love the way it transformed the shadow that I'm wearing today. And then the last column are the glittery toppers, and even though it looks like they're sitting in a pigmented base, these really sheer out as you go in and blend them. It's really all about the glitter in these shadows. So again, this is another column that they recommend using a mixing medium with, and I would say to do it more so with this one even than the second column. I find I get much more glitter fallout with this last column if I don't use something with a really strong grip. That said, I really do like the complexity of glitters in this column. I think the shades that they have are unique. Like the size of the glitter, it doesn't vary, they're all the same size, but the shade of glitter is different. So like in this orange one, you actually have a mixture of copper and gold glitter. In this green, it's actually more of a smoky green base. It doesn't come off nearly that pigmented on the skin, but the glitters pop as both an olive green and an orange. And so I think that complexity really makes these shadows unique. Although I will say none of these are available individually. Of all the finishes in this palette, this is the one that they did not make any of the shadows available to purchase individually. So now I want to go through the looks I created, then I'll get to the review, my final thoughts after that. First, starting with the look that I'm wearing today. So as the base, I used the shade Eclipse. And to do that, I took a flat shader brush, spritzed it so that I could pick up a good amount of product. And this is where I think you'll see that as long as you're using a little something with this product, there is next to no fallout. Like, I was so impressed. They kind of prepared us for it, and all the reviews I'd seen, it kind of prepared me for the amount of fallout, but just a little bit of moisture on that brush is gonna keep that product in place. So I patted that all over the moving part of my lid, then up into my crease to help that blend out a little bit better. I went in with the shade Dark Matter, which is that deep dark metallic hunter green. Just very, very lightly use that to buff out my crease. Then for my inner corner highlight, I went in with the shade Lunar Eclipse to give a soft pink iridescence that would then complement the duochrome I used across the rest of my lid over top of that base. And that is the shade Interstellar, which has this incredible fuchsia base with a strong blue, like baby blue, bright blue iridescent pop. It's just so beautiful, so multifaceted, and I love the way it transformed the look because you not only get that duochromatic shift, but you also get those glittery flecks poking out underneath, and it just creates this incredibly textured but still very put together, and I would say kind of wearable sort of look. I love the way these shadows play together. Now the next look I created is using the shade Saturn, which is a bright metallic rosé sort of shade all over the lid and even up into the crease. This is one of those shades that I find blends out really beautifully into the crease if you want to do just a soft wash of color all over. But I did want to add a little bit of a highlight there, so I went in with Stardust in my inner corner. Then the last look is one that I think is going to be a favorite for the summer. It uses the shade Alien as a base. It's this hot lime green chartreusey kind of shade, and I apply it all over. Not just all over my lid, but then I use a fluffy brush to get it up into my crease. I mean, it is such a beautiful shade to just apply as a wash of color across the lid. However, I've been dying to use the shade Sunlight, which has a yellowy green base with a beautiful blue duochrome shift. And there's no better color than I thought to have paired with it besides Alien. So I used that in my inner corner and it gave me such a beautiful and unique inner corner highlight. Love those two shades paired together. However, I do think that blue would have a stronger pop if you were to use it over one of those like deeper luxe metallic shades. That would also be super beautiful, but love how I wore it here. And then on my lower lash line, I went in with the shade Earth just to shade my lower lash line and give that some dimension as well. So those are the looks I created. And ultimately, I mean, I don't think I have to say it, but I like it, and I kind of hate that I like it because of how much it costs, but at the end of the day, this palette serves up a lot of variety, a lot of shadows that are not only of good quality, but are also really unique in terms of tone and texture. You know, I don't think anyone needs this whole palette. I don't need this whole palette. I enjoy having this whole palette, but to the extent that you were considering purchasing it all, I don't have much bad to say about it as long as you can anticipate that fallout and you don't mind spritzing your brush with setting spray or working with a mixing medium. I really think you can look forward to a nice variety of finishes and textures from this palette. And what I thought would be my biggest hurdle ended up being like a total non-event, and that is what to do without a matte shadow. I'm so used to having a matte crease shade, a matte something or other to kind of, you know, your best friend blending shade is always that matte shadow. I just wasn't sure where I'd be without it, and I found that especially with, actually no, I did it with almost all of these shades, like the glittering one I'm wearing here today, but for the most part, these metallic and luxe metallic shades really work well to help with those transitions without looking like you have glitter up to your eyebrows, you know? Now, luckily, the conclusion of this is not, do I splurge on this whole palette or just go without entirely? I really think that having those individual shadows available now is going to open this palette up to so many more people who would really have enjoyed it, but not have necessarily needed or used all of these shades. So that's really it for me. Not much bad to say about it. Really like it. Expect to see more about it from me. If I left anything out or if you guys have any other questions, be sure and let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it useful. If you want to see more videos like it, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!